And drink your soy milk to raise your testosterone level, my friends. Cheers, let's be consistent. Hey, good afternoon. Okay, so this channel is about, to some extent, ethics, and to some extent, things like secularism and atheism, but it's also about animal rights. Team Broccoli smashing some city, Tokyo, I don't know where it is. Anyway, so I wanted to talk a little bit about mistakes that I have made and that I've seen other vegans make, because I think that this movement is important, and I think that there's a lot of talk about how helpful a plant-based diet can be and things like that, and that's important and it's true, and you really can perform really well on a plant-based diet. I'm super active. I'm more active than I've ever been growing up, and yeah, I think that a plant-based diet is wonderful. But that being said, from an ethical standpoint, once you've realized that animal agriculture is wrong, this video, I guess, would probably be aimed at vegans, but it's also for people just trying to eat a healthier diet and cut down on their animal consumption and things like that. Animal agriculture is wrong, especially the way we currently do it, but in general, it's not ethically justifiable once you've figured out how to do something else. You have to make sure you don't screw up your diet so that you don't get sick, get ill, whatever it is, and then, get cravings and do all kinds of madness. So I will sort of talk about 7 mistakes I've made in my 7 years being vegan, and that will do this. So mistake number 1 that I've made is I did not get in enough B12 when I first went vegan. I was fresh out of the military, and I was traveling around, and I was watching a bunch of stuff about animal rights, watching some docs and things like that. I was like, okay, that's it, I'm going vegan. And then I started looking into sort of the science on processed food versus unprocessed food, and I said, not only that, I'm gonna run an experiment on myself, and I'm gonna go raw. Because at the time, I was so sleep deprived that I thought that was our ancestral diet, and I thought that for some reason, because frankly my scientific reasoning skills were not nearly as good, I've had the fortune of sharpening those up with various people since then, and training. I'm gonna go raw. So I was eating a primarily raw diet, mainly raw diet, and I wasn't taking any supplements. And I honestly felt great in the beginning. And that was probably placebo, and that was probably just the fact that I had been taking in very, very little fresh produce in the military. I was in the IDF. Food is not nearly as good as it is in the US military, and I can't imagine that if you're in the field in the US military, good food's that good anyway. So I was doing better temporarily, and then things got a lot worse. So I got a B12 deficiency. I actually had this confirmed later by a physician, meaning when I got access to a physician again, I got out of South America, got access to a physician, he's like, well, your cholesterol's plummeted, that's awesome, but your B12 is low. And I'm like, oh crap, I'm having neurological symptoms, and that's why. So take your B12. Same thing goes for vitamin D. Even if you're light skinned, even if you live in a sunny place, there really isn't any harm in taking either B12 or vitamin D in the normal doses that you'd be getting from a regular supplement. So it's just not worth the risk. And that leads me, although I've never had vitamin D deficiency, that leads me to the other mistake that I made. This was later in my life. I was living in Israel. I was a student. And I got an iodine deficiency. So this would be another one. Take your B12, take your vitamin D, get some iodine in. Israel is apparently on the WHO's list for countries that are at a little bit of a risk for iodine deficiency. Again, it's not to the point that you'll get a goiter, but the soil is not particularly rich in iodine. And so I had read about iodine. I already thought I knew about iodine. I was like, oh, I'm eating produce. I'm eating a mixture of foods. Okay, great. I should be fine. I tend to avoid salty food. I don't like salty food very much, and I still don't eat that much processed food. And at the time, I definitely wasn't eating a lot of processed food, even relatively healthy ones like whole grain breads. I was like trying to stay away from pretty much anything that was processed still. Definitely wasn't eating raw, but I was eating a fairly simple diet. And I got an iodine deficiency, and an iodine deficiency sucks. How do you avoid an iodine deficiency? Very easy, get yourself some seaweed. I like wakame and I like kelp. Those are the 2 that I eat. No health problems associated with those as far as I know. I know some of the different seaweed supplies have had some contamination issues, but haven't heard of any problems with either of those. Kelp is great. It doesn't have a really strong taste. You can just sprinkle it on top of things. It doesn't take much to meet the RDA. And wakame is another one that you can eat small amounts of. It's dry, it's sort of crunchy, it's nice. Or you can just soak it in some water, and then you can have it as like a side, as part of your salads or something like that. So, or obviously, if you're using salt, just make sure the salt is iodized. Please don't use sea salt. Any of you who are familiar with kind of critical reasoning, scientific method, and know a little bit about dietetics should know that sea salt is not better for you than regular salt. Regular salt has iodine, sea salt does not. There is iodized sea salt though, so I don't know what the deal is with that. But any of these quote natural salts are just salt. They're salt with other trace minerals sometimes, or sulfur, like in the case of black salt. But iodized salt, wakame, kelp, other seaweeds, go for it. I guess this leads to a third, or depending on how we're counting, fourth mistake that I've made, which is, can you go too plant-based as a vegan? Yes, you can. There are processed foods that are worth eating, okay? There are processed foods that are worth eating. People sometimes get this into their head that plant-based and unprocessed should be this like religious thing, and I don't think anything should be that religious. And if you think veganism is a religion and you're watching this channel, I'd be happy to talk to you about that. But it's not. But tofu, for example, is one of these examples of like, you can get in a lot of your calcium that way, lots of protein, great, doesn't have that much fiber, if any, but who cares? It's good in desserts, right? It satisfies a certain craving that I sometimes get. It's awesome, it's good for you. There is some evidence that it reduces this quote unquote skinny fat syndrome where people sort of have a low body weight, relatively speaking, so they're healthy in terms of body weight, but their blood lipids are kind of high. So that would be another one, is don't go too aggressively plant-based in the sense of avoiding all processed foods. Oxalate is another one. So I would say this is, if we're counting my fourth or fifth, oxalate is one that you can get too much of. So I, as I usually do, try to avoid eating a lot of processed foods. And I, at one point, was on vacation, and I was like, oh, I'm going to have a snack for the flight. I'm going to eat an entire bag of spinach. Well, if you eat an entire bag of raw spinach, you can get so much oxalate you shut your kidneys down, which is exactly what I did. I got a little bit of temporary kidney shutdown because I ate an entire bag of raw spinach at once. So if you're getting greens, make sure they're really low oxalate greens. Otherwise, please cook them. Cooking reduces the oxalate content of most things by a lot. Kale, for example, has some oxalate. Spinach has a lot, so if you eat spinach, it's probably better to actually eat it raw, cooked, eat it cooked if you're gonna eat any significant amount of it. I have my little list here. Snacks. I was convinced for a long time that snacking was a bad health behavior or something like that. Snacks are a big deal. Look, you're vegan, it's hard enough as it is. Do yourself a favor, don't walk around hungry. Carry some snacks with you. In all of my sort of daily go bags, I have something in there. Dried edamame with some like walnuts and pumpkin seeds, little protein and healthy fat mix that I like to carry around. Lara bars are great. I really like Lara bars. If you're in the States, they're super easy to get. There are similar things available in other places, but it's literally just dried fruit, nuts, healthy, easy source of calories, awesome. Make sure you carry some snacks around. A pressure cooker, your freezer, and your microwave. This is more about convenience and health combined. Just because you are vegan and just because you are trying to eat healthy is not a reason to walk around breaking your head, okay? Frozen fruits and veggies, probably healthier than raw ones in some cases because they're picked at peak ripeness, and the freezing increases bioavailability of things like flavonoids and all kinds of other stuff in your food. It's just convenient, it's in your freezer, you don't have to worry about it. Get a pressure cooker. Pressure cooker saved my life. I don't know how I would have gotten through my degree without a pressure cooker. You put things in it, you put water in it, you push a button, you come back, you have healthy food. If you're trying to eat beans, you're trying to eat lentils, you're trying to eat pulses, you're trying to eat like whole cooked grains, this is way easier in a pressure cooker. And you can time it. Usually a lot of them have like digital timers on it now. Super, super useful. Learn how to cook with your microwave. There are actually things that, in my opinion, taste better in a microwave. Sweet potatoes, I always cook sweet potatoes in the microwave. Cut them up, throw them in the microwave, easy. Certain greens like broccoli, well, that's not really a green, it's a veggie, but you get what I'm saying. There are certain things that are just easier to cook in a microwave. Learn to use your microwave. Broccoli, cauliflower, and carrots, cabbage, those four things, which are a big staple in my diet, always in the microwave. Pretty much don't cook them any other way, unless I'm trying to make spicy cabbage steak, which is totally a thing. And bonus tip, nutritional yeast. Order nutritional yeast in bulk, please. Nutritional yeast is so good, and it's so good for you. If you're getting the fortified stuff, it's like basically just fiber and protein and a bunch of B vitamins. It's awesome. Add it to your food. Beta glucans, which is a specific kind of fiber that you can find in nutritional yeast, actually has been shown to help with upper respiratory infections post serious amounts of exercise, which is totally a thing. This isn't really a mistake that I've made overall, but I would say don't fixate on your diet too much. You're already trying to eat more plant-based, you're trying to be vegan. I think people have this idea that your diet is tied to your energy levels, and it totally is, okay? Your diet is absolutely tied to your energy levels. your energy levels are tied to your diet, right? If you're eating well, you're going to feel better on average. On average is the important phrase there, though. There are so many factors that can affect your energy level. If your energy levels fall, it doesn't necessarily mean something is wrong with you nutritionally. It could just be you're stressed. It could just be you didn't sleep enough. It could just be it's 90 degrees outside. Whatever it is, don't worry too much if you feel a little low energy. If you have gotten blood work and you're good, chill, relax, like get yourself checked out, you're fine. Health is about averages. It's not about how you're feeling on a specific day. You wouldn't say that somebody's unhealthy just because they have the flu. You would say that they're sick, but they'll get better and then that's it, right? It's about your average. So those I would say are my top 7 tips, which is get your B12, vitamin D, and iodine. Those 3 nutrients I've noticed people kind of on average screw up a little bit. Make sure that you're using the convenient stuff that's around you, right? Your microwave, your fridge, your freezer, and a pressure cooker if you can get one. You can get them used. You don't even have to get them new. Definitely helpful. Don't fixate on your diet too much. One way you can also do this is avoid dietary guesswork. Just get Chronometer. Okay, run stuff through Chronometer. See if you're actually meeting your RDAs for everything. Learn a little bit about nutrition, yes, but like you don't have to think about it all the time. Oxalate, don't get too much oxalate, so watch your spinach intake and stuff like that. All you people out there making raw green smoothies, make sure those aren't high oxalate vegetables. If they are, consider cooking them instead. Carry snacks. And drink your soy milk to raise your testosterone level, my friends. Cheers, let's be consistent.